Hi everyone, today we're going to have a look at the Seed Vault seed storage solution, and we're going to actually run through how we use the device to store a 12 or 24 word seed phrase. So we'll do a quick unboxing so you can see what's actually included with the Seed Vault when it arrives, and we'll be looking just at the seed phrase pack, not the passphrase pack today, but very similar, just different plates that will arrive depending on whether you're trying to protect a seed phrase or a passphrase. So yeah, we'll have a quick look at the contents of the Seed Vault package and how we're going to use that to back up our 12 word or 24 word seed phrase. Okay, let's get a camera live over here so you can see what's actually in the box. And first of all, we'll have a quick look. So you've got a pack of screws, which will make more sense later on, but that's how we can create a solid pack of the Seed Vault when we're finished putting it together, and just to secure it and keep it away from prying eyes. We've got a couple of helper cards, and this tells you where to go for the instructions, but more importantly, the lines on this card will actually assist when we're trying to mark out our seed phrase plate, and when we're stamping it with the auto punch, which is what we have here. This is an auto punch, and basically we just push it down and put pressure on it, and you'll get quite a loud noise, which you'll see when we do a couple of the examples, and that will put a mark onto the steel plate. And I'll give you an example here, so you can see where I've marked them in permanent marker. Hopefully you can see that there okay. So I've marked them in permanent marker, and we'll leave the permanent marker on there because it doesn't do no harm to leave that there. And then you can see where I've pin punched and actually put a good mark into the steel, so that's not going anywhere. You'll be able to tell if that gets damaged in a fire or flood or something like that. Those pin marks will stay there even if the permanent marker is removed. So that's ultimately what we're going to do, is we'll be stamping that today. All right, let's have a look what else we've got. Some tamper-proof stickers, and you'll see how we'll use those later on. Our permanent marker, so we can mark on our plate before we actually get the auto center punch and actually physically mark the plates. And then also you've got the actual plates themselves, so they arrive in a sealable padded bag. Now we don't seal this because you can use that as a way to store the plates and seal it off, so you know if someone's been inside them. So it's also another way of doing some tamper-proof resistance. So yeah, we've got the stickers, and you can also use that there as well. So that's sort of, if you need it to look inconspicuous, you can just leave that sitting in your safe and it'll just look like a padded bag. Okay, so let's have a look what we've actually got in here. Okay, so we've got, in this instance, we've got 2 plates. So these are the seed word plates. We'll just take the plastic wrappers off of those so you can see them. And that's what we're going to fill out today. Hopefully you can see that okay there. It's a bit hard to get that to focus sometimes. Let's see. There we go. So you can see that that's our seed plate. And I'll show you how to fill that out in a moment. So we've actually got 2 of those. So this pack comes with 2 of those seed plates. Okay, exactly the same. But depending on how we use it, whether we're backing up 12 words or 24 words, we'll use the plates in a slightly different way. All right, let me just clear a bit of space and then we'll jump straight into it and see how we're going to go about backing up our seed phrase. Okay, so before we actually go through and start to fill out the plate, there's a bit of important information we need. So if you come to the Seed Vault website and you scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll see this download helper sheet. When you click on download helper sheet, it's going to give you this PDF document here. The PDF document just tells you a little bit about the seed vault, and then gives you some step-by-step instructions that you can do to complete filling it out. Now, what's really important, please make sure you read this important things to consider. When you're doing this, your seed words they're very sensitive. If someone gets hold of those seed words, you've compromised your wallet. So make sure that there's no CCTV or no webcams, like on your laptop or your computer, that could potentially be activated without you knowing, or recording what you're doing. If you've got webcams, cover them physically with a bit of paper or a sticky note or something so that they can't see what you're doing. Most importantly, destroy any unneeded duplicate copies of seed phrases. So once we've stamped this in the metal, get rid of the things you don't need. And I don't mean just screw them up and chuck them in the bin. You've got to shred these things. So shred them, cut them up into a billion pieces, and then don't just chuck all those pieces in the bin. Get creative and spread them around so that there's no possible way someone can piece all those small bits back together and recreate your seed phrase. And what we'll also do, we can keep a copy of our seed phrase inside the seed vault by sandwiching it in between the steel plates. And I'll show you how that looks when we get to that. So basically the helper sheet tells you what you should have received in your pack, and then guides you to the website where you can download or you can watch this instructional video. And so we've actually downloaded the helper sheet already, and I'll show you why that's important. So we need to download the helper sheet, and then we're going to step through these parts here. So we'll walk through that. So further down the helper sheet, there's two sections. There's a seed phrase helper sheet, and there's a passphrase helper sheet. So we're doing the seed phrase today, so we're more interested in this one page here. In actual fact, I've printed off this page, and you don't have to, but I think it's really important, and it will save you making mistakes if you do this. Okay, now before we get started, we need to understand what's important about a seed word and what we need to back up, because we're not writing down the whole word. We don't need to write down the whole word because the BIP 39 standard only requires the first 4 letters of every word to be able to reconstruct the entire seed phrase. So we're only interested in the first 4 characters of each word. So hence you can see for word 1, there's only 4 boxes, and so forth for all the other words. So we're only really interested in the first 4 characters. Now, I'm just going to switch on the camera for a moment as well. And you can see here, so I've downloaded the helper sheet, and I've also got my seed words. In this instance, I've got 24 seed words, but we'll go through an example of backing up either 12 or 24. And you may not have them printed out like that. You might have them handwritten, or you might have, if you've got a Trezor or a Ledger, you've probably got a card that you wrote down possibly your seed phrase on there. Okay, so really what you need is the helper sheet and your seed words. And I mentioned that we're only interested in the first 4 characters of every word, and that will enable us to reconstruct our seed. So what we're going to do, the very first step, is to translate our seed phrase from the full words into the format that we need for storing on our seed phrase plate. So I'll start, and I'll just do a few of these spaces so you can understand how to do this, and then we'll pause the video, and you don't need to see me sit there write all of these out, but we'll go back and we'll show you how that's done. Now, if we're doing just 12 words, we'll just use the top box, and if we're doing 24 words, we can use the bottom box there. So I'll use these 2 bottom boxes and fill all this out. Excuse me, I've got a bit of a croaky voice, just coming off the back of a little bit of a cold, so forgive me for sounding a little bit harsh. All right, let's have a look. So our first word is often. So you can see there, but we don't need the whole word, so we need O, F, T, N. And we'll be very clear about what we're writing there. Next one, begin, B, E, G, I. So you can see what we're doing there, where we're just taking the first 4 letters of each word, A, W, A, Y. So what would happen if we had a word that was only 3 characters? And you can see I've given an example of that in the helper sheet, where you can see that hopefully you can see that there. So our first word was cafe, and that was 4 letters, so we used all 4 letters of that word. Our second word was bad, so it's only 3 letters, so we don't need the 4th letter there. So when we fill this out, we just leave it as a blank space, and that's fine, totally perfect. And then our third word here was feeder. So you can see we've only used the first 4 characters of the word feeder. Let me just see if I can bring that into focus for you. But if you're struggling to see that, please download the helper sheet from the website and you can follow along. But you can see right next to here, we've only got the 3 characters. Okay, so I'm just going to work my way through all of these 24 words, and I'll pop them into the helper sheet, and then we'll come back and have a look at what the next step is. Okay, so that took about a minute or 2, and I have literally just gone through and taken all of my 24 words, taken the first 4 characters and put them across each one of these from word 1 through to 24. And you'll notice in word 23 it was a 3-letter word, van, so I don't have anything in the 4th box for that particular one there. So that's fine. We're now ready to move on to the next part. But before we do, double check everything. So make sure that what you've got here is correct, because this is going to be important when we move on to the next step. And if you've made a mistake here, that will flow through all the way. So double check each step as you go through. Make sure what you think you should have written is actually what you have written there. All right, so we'll get our seed words out of the way. And now we'll have a look at how we're going to fill out the actual plate. And let me just grab one of our seed plates. Okay, so you can see there, this will start to make a little bit of sense now. Hopefully you can see that okay. But each letter we have here relates to a square on our plate. So we're going to get our permanent marker and our helper card, like so. We're going to go through, and just bear with me while I turn this a bit so I can do this. We're going to go through and find each one of these letters. So you see how I'm using the lines on the card to help line things up, but we're after O, so we're just going to mark in that square. F, so it's a bit hard to do this. I'm trying to wrap my head around a camera while we do this. I'm just going to get a bit more comfortable so I can do this. T, E. Okay, so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going through and I'm marking in each one of these letters in the corresponding boxes. So next, B, E, G. If we need to, we can use our card to help line it up. I. Okay, so I'm going to pause the video and I'll go through and I'm going to complete word 1 through to 12, and then we'll stop and have a little bit of a chat about what we do next. So I'll just give you another quick look as I'm going through. So I'm lining up, just completed word 5, so I'm lining up word 6 now. So E, D, I, T. Next word, 7. Yes. Okay. A. T. So it doesn't really matter that we're going to be scribbling all these on. I think it's good to leave all the black markings on there. So I'll just pause and I'll keep going through. And we're still going. I got a little bit trying to go too quick, and I made a mistake, so I've just had to use a little bit of methylated spirits just to rub out and redo word 10. So it just goes to show that you do need to take a little bit of care and a little bit of time when you're doing this, but easily fixed. And now's the time to catch those sorts of mistakes. So we're just up to the final S. Oh, sorry, U. Okay, so what we're looking at now is a completed 12-word card. So it's at this point in time when we really need to go back and just double check that each letter we have done corresponds with what it should be. So that is a really important step, to go back and double check all of that, because once we move on to the next step and start stamping, there's no coming back. It's a permanent record, like it should be. So do make sure that you do complete this very important part and go through and literally check every square that you've colored in to make sure that it's correct. All right, so if we were doing a 12-word seed phrase, that would be it. That would be us done. We would have completed our 12 words. And if you would have noticed, you get 2 plates in a pack. So you can actually back up 2 12-word seed phrases if you have one pack. And then we would basically bolt those together. And I'll show you how we do that in a moment, to create a sandwich where we've got our seed phrase locked in there. Now, we're doing a 24-word seed phrase here though, so things are a little bit different. We'll come back and we'll have a look how we stamp these in a moment, but it's important to understand how we would go about using the plates to back up a 24-word seed phrase. So I've just mentioned that if that was a 12-word seed phrase, we would be done. You wouldn't have to do any more. But you'd notice, if we're doing a 24-word seed phrase, we have to put a few extra markings in on the plates so we know which plate represents word 1 to 12 and which plate represents word 13 to 24. Pretty easy. All we do on the plates that are representing the 12 words, just fill in our little marker box up there, and on the plate that is representing the 24 words, this plate's representing word 13 to 24, so we'd mark that down there. We'll stamp that as well. And this plate is representing word 1 to 12 of our 24-word seed phrase. So then when we eventually bolt these together, if we ever pull them apart again, we would know which plate forms word 1 to 12 and which plate forms word 13 to 24. Okay, so you don't have to endure watching me mark out word 13 to 24. We'll pause the video. I'll do exactly what I've just done on this plate 1 here, but we're working on word 13, so down the bottom here. Sorry, let me just move that over to there. So we're working on word 13, so we're putting it in this box here. And we'll work all the way through to word 24, which corresponds over here and down here, because we have marked this point here as being words 13 to 24. So I'll pause the video, I'll go back and complete this, and then we'll come back and have a look what we do next. Okay, so I've gone through and marked in the rest of that plate. And you'll notice that when you look at the plates, we have a row of, hopefully you can see that, a row of numbers down the side here, or letters I should say. Then in the middle we have another, let's see if I can get that in focus for you. Can I get that? Maybe not. A bit hard. But there's a row, what you can see here is a another row of letters down the middle, just to make it easy for you to, sorry, that's really hard to get in focus for you, make it easier for you to line up the squares, and also another row of letters down this side, just to make it nice and simple. So that's pretty much it. That's all the hard bit, is we've gone through them, we've put in our seed phrase, and you'll notice that if someone was to look at this, they could probably remember a few of your words, and especially if it was a 12 word, if they caught a glimpse of that, they might actually have a reasonable chance of remembering some of those. But this is coded in such a way where it's not difficult, and when you understand how it works, it's very easy to decipher what's actually on here. But for someone to just quickly take a glance at that means absolutely nothing to them. So just a slight little bit of coding that I guess makes it a bit more resistance to just prying eyes catching a quick glimpse of your seed phrase. So I think that's actually a nice little feature. Once again, we've got our 12-word plate with our 12-word box marked up the top, and our 24 words with our 24-word mark down the bottom. You'll notice here word 23 was a 3-letter word, van, so you can see we've only got V-A-N sitting there, and the 4th row in that particular word, word 23, has just been left blank. All right, let's have a look how we move on to the next stage, which is literally stamping the plates. So I'm going to just put these out the way, and we'll bring in just a test plate. So this is one of our old prototypes, and what you'll notice is it's got a whole series of little pin punches on this where we've just been testing and playing around. But over here you can see we've got some fresh squares that we've marked in, much the same way that we marked our squares in on our plate up the top here. And this is where you can get the helper card, because it does make life a little bit easier. And you can line that up on the edge of the square, put our pin punch against the card, so we're right in the middle of the square, and we're going to punch down. This is going to be quite noisy on the camera, so I might have to block the noise out, but we'll see how we go. And I'm just going to punch these 4 here, and you'll see how easy it is. And yeah, I'll do the first one, then I might just take the noise down on that. But you'll see, so we line that up and just push that down. Okay, now I'm just going to pause the audio just so you don't have to listen to all of that. Okay, so you can see how quick that was, and I've quickly used our pin punch to put in those permanent marks, and that's as hard as it gets. So the next step on our seed plates would be to go through and literally follow that process through and punch all our required squares, and also make sure we punch our markers for our indicators for which words we're protecting. Very important that you do those. Okay, so I'm not going to go through and punch all of those. I think you get the general idea just by seeing me do that on the test plate, but you can see how we've kept the black markings there, so it's nice and visible, and you can see that we've really punched a good solid hole or a divot into the plate. So that's not going anywhere. That's now a permanent record. Okay, so let's assume that we've gone through and we've pin punched our whole, both of those plates. Now we're at this stage where we can start to put them together and protect our seed phrases. So like I mentioned, if you have your seed words, so either you've got your card that came with your hardware wallet, if that's what you're using, or you've written down your seed words, totally okay to pop them in the middle of the plates before we seal them up. And at least that way, I mean, this is coded and it's easy to read, but you might want to keep this even more readable version in here as well, because it's going to be secure. It's going to be closed off and no one will be able to see it. And really what we're protecting against here is physical loss and damage of our seed phrase. So even if the worst happened and there was a fire and this bit of paper got destroyed or whatever, or water and it got destroyed, our plates would still be intact. And we would just literally seal our plates up like so. And that would be clamped in there and no one's going to know about that anyway. Now, what comes with your kit is a bunch of screws, and depending on how many of these plates you are stacking together, because we can stack multiple plates together, but if you're only stacking 2, then obviously you just need the shorter screws, and if you're stacking more of them together, use the longer screws. But what we're going to end up with is pretty much this, where we've got our screws and we've screwed the plates together so they're not coming apart, and then we've taken our tamper resistant stickers and we've placed them on both sides of the plate. So that way if someone was to undo this, they would literally have to damage one of these stickers to get in and view what's inside there. So that's pretty safe from prying eyes, and super strong and not going anywhere. So that's pretty much, once you've done that, you've protected your seed phrase. Now we did say that it ships with this bubble pack. So if you wanted to, you could just pop your bubble pack pop your kit into the bubble pack. And once you've got that in there, once again, you could seal that up and just pop that there, and that looks pretty inconspicuous. It's not giving any ideas that there's holding your seed phrases in there. It just looks like a document or something like that, or an envelope. So that's pretty much all we need to do. Yeah, that's as hard as it gets, people. So to do that from start to finish would probably be about a 15-minute process. If you're being really cautious and taking your time, maybe allow 30 minutes to go through and double check everything. Yeah, but that's it. Once you've got that, then you can rest a little bit easier at night, knowing that if something was to happen where there was a fire or a flood or something like that, at least you've got these secured away. You're not leaving them sitting around on a bit of card that is sitting in your top drawer. They're a little bit more hidden from view now, and you'll know if someone's ever tampered with that, because you've got first of all, you've got it in a sealable bag, which would be damaged if someone tried to open it, and you've got your tamper resistant stickers, and you've got it screwed together as well. And then if you've seen our other video, we can actually go one step further. Just give me 1 second, I'm going to show you something else we can do with these. So this is an example of a larger pack where we've put 4 plates together, and you can see on this side here we've actually riveted these plates together, so no one can actually separate those without physically getting a drill and drilling out the plates. So that's about the best you can do to stop prying eyes, I think. No one's going to be able to easily pull that apart. Now, we don't supply the rivets, but if you just use a 2.5mm blind rivet, they're pretty much available at most hardware stores. You can pop that in through the hole there, and that will make that super secure, and no one's going to easily look in on that. Okay, I did say there was one other thing we need to do. We need to go back and just read our important things to consider, and we said we need to make sure we shred the helper sheet or any copies of our words, and we dispose of those. So if we've used our helper sheet here and we've written our seed words out, that's a risk. So what I'd be suggesting you do is get a pair of scissors and slice this up to shreds, pull apart, put water on it if you like, turn it into a ball of mush so that it's no longer readable before you dispose of those. Probably just chuck it straight in the toilet as well and give that a flush. So that's then totally out of the picture, and no one's going to be able to see that set of seed words. Look, that's pretty much it. Yeah, it's not a hard process. Should be nice and quick, and once you've done that, yeah, you'll be able to rest a lot easier knowing that your seed words are now securely safe and sound, and not going to, or they will stand the ravages of time and the elements if they ever had to. So where do you store your seed plate now that you've written that down? And hopefully you don't just pop that in your top drawer. I would suggest you, if you've got a safe, great, safe's a good place to put it. Get creative. Put it up in the roof space, or bury it in the backyard if you really want. That's the beauty of this. It's super indestructible, so it's going to stand the test of time. You can put it in places that would be hard to find, but you know where they are. And yeah, just keep your seed words safe and sound. Okay, that's it for this video. Please, if you're interested in backing up a passphrase and you would like to understand how to do that on our passphrase plates, go and check out the instructional video on how to back up your passphrases as well. That's it for me. I'll see you all in the next video.